HSBC presents CNBC TV 18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity.
A very warm welcome to HSBC presents CNBC TV 18 Future Female Forward Season 2, the Women's Collective, co-presented by HCL Tech. The success of our previous season has set a high standard, showcasing inspiring stories of leadership and entrepreneurship among women. Focused on making gender parity an absolute reality, today we bring you an interesting conversation with women leaders of HSBC. As our partner for this second season, HSBC exemplifies commitment to advancing gender diversity and empowerment. Today we are in conversation with Christina Ma, Head of Global Banking Asia Pacific HSBC, and Archana Chadha, HR Head at HSBC India. Ladies, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and really understanding why diversity and gender parity is so important to you folks at HSBC.
Sure, thank you so much. Well, listen, as an organization, a global organization that operates in 62 countries, we obviously need to reflect the needs and the composition of our clients. And frankly, diversity is just simply good business. Many of our clients have senior leaders that are women, CEOs and CFOs, and we see that rate increasing across the board. So from our perspective, not only is it good citizenship, but it's also good business.
Okay. Archana, comment on this. I mean, how long has been the journey for HSBC here in India in terms of driving this whole agenda forward?
It's been a journey for a very long time because, like Christina said, promoting diversity and inclusion is not only the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. But in India, the journey has been for a while now, but in the last couple of years, we've really stepped it up. So whether it is setting up a very strong tone from the top, wherein on a monthly basis, we as a leadership team review what our numbers are doing, where are we heading, is it the right direction, do we need to course correct? Once and right from the time we hire people as to what is the environment we are creating, bias-free, we have across the organization about 10,000 of our managers who've undergone a training so that they can hire without a bias. It's not only about hiring, it's also when you bring the people into the system, how are you going to train them? So besides coaching and mentoring, in India we realize that this is a pool that needs support which is additional. So we've actually come up with a program for women at mid-management levels called Ascend. It is our flagship program, and we have seen 50% of the women who've gone through this program over the last 4 years either get promoted, move into different roles and geographies. So, it is a support you provide over there. Besides that, it's creating an inclusive environment within the organization. So whether it is childcare, whether it is leaves, whether it is having conversations and naturalizing conversations that you have outside and within the organization. So we have it all over there put together.
Oh, that sounds like, you've got a whole program running. And I want to come back to the aspect about speaking, asking for help, flexibility, all of that. I'll come back to that. But Christina, from a regional level, when it comes to diversity and inclusion and more gender parity, what trends do you see across regional markets from your vantage point? Are countries sort of doing their own thing? Are there similarities, differences, let's say China versus what's happening in other markets, or Japan, India for that matter? What do you see from your regional perspective when it comes to women?
Sure. I think, again, as a global organization, we try to make sure that we have consistent programs across the board. And I think just to pick up on what Archana said earlier, I think when we think about our diversity in population, we think through, we try to organize it around sort of 3 principles, which is recruitment, retention, as well as promotion. HSBC have targets of having 35% of women in senior leadership positions by 2030, right? 2030 is everyone says right.
Okay.
And then, but I think,
and this is at a global level.
At a global
35%
level.
women in senior leadership positions at a global level.
Yes. As far as HSBC as an organization, we have made this a priority, which is why we've set this target out. If I think about our recruitment process, more than 56% of our incoming grads are women in the region. So we do very well on the intake part. Mm-hmm. Now, then comes the retention. And this is really the hard part. And this is not just for us as an organization. We see that across the board. And we do have many programs that we have initiated or we run both on a global level as well as on an Asia level. So we have mentorship programs. We have acceleration programs where we put senior talent or we identify female talent and we pair them up with mentors. We give them access, but special resources that would help them along their career journey. Another thing that we need to think about as well is, as women get to a certain point in their life, there are just challenges and factors that pull people in different ways. And that is just the fact of life, right? In terms of having a family, supporting a family. And this is especially so in Asia, where family plays such an important part in our culture. And I think we at HSBC and Archana can speak more to it because it's a program that we have in India, is a returnship program. So as women face these challenges, there are ways in which we can deal with it. We can have a word with our managers. There are sabbaticals that we have as an organization that allows people to take a break if they need to. But should they really feel the need to leave the workforce, we also have a program that allows people to come back in a way. And so I think this is very important. And we, I think as an industry, probably don't spend enough time on the returnship part. So again, I'll leave it to Archana to talk about it. But I think lastly, just on promotion, at HSBC, we spend a lot of time on succession planning and also talent identification. Mm-hmm. And as all of us as managers, we have KPIs around, what part of our bench is diverse and what are we looking at and what are we doing in terms of advancing the diversity agenda. And as I said earlier, diversity is not just for the good of all, it's also good business. So it makes sense for all of us to do this and to continue to support it.
Okay, Archana, to just take up that really important point that Christina made, that getting young women into the workforce is one thing, but ensuring they stay, and if they choose to take that career break, they do come back. That's the more difficult challenge, perhaps. So tell us, how are you navigating this at HSBC India, and also maybe any personal anecdotes, because at some point in time, each woman comes up, faced with this question: how do I manage and balance work and life? So how does one navigate it?
Okay, so I'm going to answer about the returnship program first. And we were looking at the different talent pools available in the market. And we were like, how do we get the best for HSBC? And we realized that there was this big segment within the country where women had given up careers because of caretaking or relocating or childcare and other responsibilities. And we said, how do we get this workforce into the organization? When we were evaluating it, we realized because of the break sometimes, the corporate world is moving at a very fast pace. Yeah. How do we train them and get them ready to do that? So we've launched a returnship program, which we call Power to Her. It is a 6-month program where you join us as an intern. We train you for your overall grooming, personality, about thinking of innovatively, getting used to the new systems and technology, and you do a live job. At the end of 6 months, if you like us and we like you, we hire you into a permanent role. We've seen a 60% conversion into this program since its inception. So it's been doing well. So that's how we're trying to bring the workforce back who have taken a break. In terms of work-life balance and getting it right, there's never a right answer to that from my personal experience. But there was one statement by Michelle Obama which said, put yourself up on the to-do list and you will automatically prioritize. And for me, work-life balance is not about time management. It's about priority management. And if you're able to balance, and once you make a decision of what your priority is for that particular time, if you enjoy that, I think that's where you landed. But within the organization, if I see, we do provide a lot of flexibility. So whether it's flexible working, whether it is leaves. So we have different types of leaves to be able to support women. And we also have a very strong Mothers on Board program because we realize that when women are coming back after maternity, they need all the support. And in our programs, the way we have scheduled it, it's not only you can have coaching for yourself, you can involve your family members. Because in India, you generally have got, your mother-in-law, your mother, somebody from your family helping you take care of the child. And we realized that one of the biggest reasons why women were dropping off was lack of support, because even if your mother-in-law was taking care of your child, your mother-in-law needed support. Yeah. So we've come up with a nanny allowance to say that, take an allowance, keep a nanny for your child or for your people who are supporting you at home, but come back to work and we'll make it happen.
And those are novel ideas, but I think they can go a long way because at some level, they really touch the root cause, the smallest of things that suddenly lead to a bigger decision that women take in terms of their career as well.
Actually, if I may, just
sure.
in terms of picking up on what some of what Archana was talking about, I think in terms of work-life balance as well as flexibility, I think one of the, COVID was challenging for everyone, but one of the best things that came out of COVID was the greater acceptance of remote working and the tools that we have available. So I think that actually has been a game changer for many of our people, not just women, because it allows you the ability to better balance your day. And I think the other thing I wanted to pick up as well is in terms of retention. So in terms of, we have many programs at the bank that we're using for retention. One of us is the Accelerating Female Women Leaders Program. We also have things such as affinity networks, such as Women in Banking, Women in Markets, Male Allies, because it is very important to involve the bigger population, which is the men, in the retention game. So I think between all the different tools, whether it's sabbaticals or the affinity programs and the ability to have flexibility in your work life
hybrid model.
and hybrid models, I think we as a bank are doing everything we can in order to retain a very important workforce.
Okay, this is really, really inspiring stuff. But I also want to ask both of you a very basic question. For a lot of women who might be, listening to this conversation today, they will wonder, what does it really take for me to one day reach the level that Christina Ma is sitting at today, or where Archana Chadha is sitting at, right? Women in positions of power in the banking and financial services landscape.
I think the number one thing for me is having a passion for what you do, right? If you have an interest and you have a passion, I think that gets you a lot. The second thing is obviously to work at a supportive organization. I think HSBC has all the tools and many of the policies that allows women like myself to be able to succeed. But I think the other thing is to be able to have the right people around you. So having supportive managers, having managers that have gone through the right training to provide the right support for our diverse population is also critical.
Archana, a quick word before we take that break. Your advice to women who want to make really, long-lasting careers in high finance.
In addition to everything that Christina said, I have two pieces of advice for women who are, into the workforce. One is step out of your comfort zone. I used to be a branch manager and I moved to HR to do a project for 18 months. And now today I'm heading the function. So experiment, you don't know where your expertise lies. So try doing different things. Besides that, the biggest advice that I have for myself also and for all of you is learn to unlearn. Because the world outside is changing to such a great extent. If you do not learn to unlearn, you're going to be obsolete. So do that.
Okay, fabulous, ladies. This has been a really great round one. We're going to take a break and then we'll have one of your other colleagues also join in. And we will dive a little deeper into the whole philanthropy and CSR aspect at HSBC in India. What is the focus area and how is the gender parity conversation fitting in over there? We'll find out after the break.
HSBC presents CNBC TV 18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity. HSBC presents CNBC TV 18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity.
Welcome back to Future Female Forward Season 2. We are in conversation with the top women leaders at HSBC to get an understanding of why diversity and gender parity is so important to the bank and what are the lessons that women can take from these global and local leaders when it comes to making a successful career in the areas of high finance. Joining us in the conversation now is Aloka Majumdar, Global Head of Philanthropy and Head of Sustainability at HSBC India. Aloka, thanks for joining in. We've been having a great session. We've been sort of hearing from both of these lovely ladies about ideas about, how to sort of, how women can push forward and really, drive that agenda when it comes to making sustainable, successful careers. So let me start by getting your first inputs on this, because you've been with the bank for a long time as well. You're a woman leader yourself. What do you think has changed in terms of participation, in terms of more transparency, better dialogues? What has the last, let's say, 5 to 10 year journey been like?
It's been an interesting learning from, women's or policies. It was a good to have policies to start with. Then it became more nuanced and thought through policies. And then I think the big thing that we've seen over the last 5 to 7 years, or slightly maybe about 10 years, is actually execution. And that's been the biggest change, I would say, when it comes to this particular segment of getting, and creating an environment which is more receptive to the need of women.
Right.
So when you're talking about policies, when you're talking about execution, it cannot be just limited to women, because everybody has to know. Christina, I think, mentioned about the fact that your line managers are men and women. So therefore, it is very important that we understand the issues well. It's just not about a good to-do thing. There are nuances, there are very serious nuances actually, which needs to be taken into account. And that's where the big shift is currently. And we've seen that happening over the years. And I think the very word we use is culture. This is a culture piece. Culture is not going to change in a day,
Sure.
or even in a year, or even. So this has to be consistent. And I think the big thing that we've seen is also these issues, or diversity, inclusion, coming up absolutely at the top of the priority for the organizations. I think for the sector at large.
Absolutely, and I completely take your point. So, let me ask about your piece, Aloka, because you head philanthropy for the bank as a whole globally. You head sustainability here in India. Now, both of these cover aspects which are well beyond the realm of just women or gender parity. But at the same time, are these also sort of tenets, or are these also factors that are considered while you decide on projects and programs, both for sustainability and philanthropy?
I've been covering now sustainability and philanthropy for a long time. In fact, in HSBC, we had sustainability as a function from 2012 onwards. It's a new word. A lot of people are talking about sustainability today, but I think for HSBC, this is something that's happened a long time back. Being a separate function when I'm talking about it was always there, but it was part of another function. Interestingly, if you ask me, it would be that I have seen sustainability, philanthropy, CSR being seen as an add-on, being considered as an add-on to actually becoming mainstreamed. I think that's been the biggest shift, if you ask me, when it comes to how it's being viewed both internally and at the sector at large. I think this is something that I have to mention in the organization that I work with in HSBC, that how much importance is given to this to this portfolio.
Got it. Sort of just to dive a little deeper, any examples of perhaps projects that you want to bring about, any references where there's been a marriage of both, of course, projects with a overarching aim of sustainability and philanthropy, but where women have also either played a role, or the projects are specifically addressing a certain cross-section of women. Any interesting nuggets that come to your mind?
Yeah. So I think as far as India is concerned, we have seen that women being at the center of development programs. So I always mention this fact that as far as grant programs or CSR programs in India are concerned, it's actually not charity programs, it's actually development programs. And interestingly, most of the programs are designed to have the woman at the center of it. If you see the SAG movement today in India, the self-help group movement, it's a big movement and it's a very successful one. You have women at the center. Now, the fact is, Surbhi, what we have seen is that if you take why are women at the center of these programs? Because the core component of any philanthropy program or any sustainability program is actually behavior change and mindset change. And there we have seen women play a very critical role. So when you're talking about behavior change, whether it's influencing your family, people around you, I think women play a very significant role, and therefore we've seen in program design, therefore women are kept at the center of these initiatives.
Very, very interesting thoughts there, Aloka. So ladies, we're coming to the final leg of our conversation. And Christina, I must ask you about business as well. I don't know if this is your first trip to India, or do you come here often? What are your thoughts on this market?
I've been to India many times. It's one of my favorite places to come. It's the vibrancy, the energy here, and the sort of can go and go get attitude. I just love coming here and meeting the teams and our clients. I think India, in terms of importance in our business, it is one of our key markets. It's home to about 1/6 of our population globally. We have a footprint that spans across all of our businesses, from service centers to markets to banking. And so it is absolutely one of the key focus areas for us and key growth areas.
So Christina, just to continue on that, if you talk about different business priorities, which are the segments? I know, wealth management is pretty big, then there's corporate banking, which is also thriving. So when you look at the bank's various businesses in India, which do you think are the major growth engines for the next, let's say, 2-3 years?
I think you mentioned it earlier, wealth is a key growth segment for us, and this is both globally as well as in India. The other key area for us is in global banking and markets. India being the fourth largest country by GDP globally now, has one of the fastest growing economies. I think it's growing at about 6 to 7%, and that's probably on the low end actually. But it has one of the hottest and most interesting equity markets globally as well. So a ton of attention on the companies, the corporates here that are thinking about listing, and as well as the growth profile here. So I think really across the board, everything is exciting, but the growth is really what's anchoring investors' interest here in India.
Okay, sounds fantastic. All right, ladies, so we're coming down to last thoughts. Any advice, any tips to women out there who are looking to, punch through, break through, and make very successful, long-lasting careers? Archana?
So actually, it's to the society, right? It's a very big role that the corporates play in creating an inclusive environment, in creating an environment that supports diversity, equity, inclusion, as well as belonging. At HSBC, we believe very strongly in it. So besides the whole internal infrastructure that we're trying to create, we also are supporting the external world. You've seen all the work that Aloka spoke about right now, but we're also supporting the Athletics Federation of India. We're supporting women athletes at the state level and promoting them. And of course, bringing conversations to life here in Female Future Forward.
No, absolutely, Archana. These are really, really important conversations to have. So I'm glad that we are all here talking about this. Aloka, finally, last word with you. Any advice, any tip, any personal anecdote that you'd like to end on?
We have a huge focus on skilling. And the focus has been since 2012. It's a very large program that HSBC ran called the Skills for Life program. I'm really happy to share that next 5 years that we ran the program from 2015 to 20, we saw phenomenal learnings in terms of the numbers of women. We actually exceeded more than 17%. The placement and retention rates for women were better than men. So that was an interesting learning. But another learning was that you have to think of certain things which we have not thought earlier, because we were only thinking of certification, employment, placement, retention. You had to look at well-being. Yeah. That's something. Health and well-being came as, two very big needs when you're talking to women, and if you really want them to flourish in the sector. So these are learnings from there, and we are happy that a large part of the learnings from this program was actually used to create India's first skill impact bond, which a National Skills Development Corporation is actually running, and it's a great experience. I think, like I always say, it's important to use this opportunity of having great, significant amounts available to create experiments, to use it as a sandbox and create solutions for diversity inclusion at the community level.
Well, ladies, more power to you and all the programs that you're running and all the women that you're inspiring out there. I do hope that your voices resonate. They reach a lot of the young women, the middle-aged women, or mid-career women who might be listening in, and they really take something home back with them. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it on this special conversation. Many thanks for being with us.
HSBC presents CNBC TV 18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity.